Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life, and Verizon released their second quarter earnings. Now, I have the operating metrics chart that we're going to take a look at here briefly, and then I'll get on this call. I'm a little behind. I'll get on the call, and then we'll talk in more detail about it in a video later. So, just as I predicted, Verizon would take a loss, but less of a loss on consumer. So Verizon lost 51,000 consumers in the second quarter. If you backtrack to the second quarter from a year ago, Verizon also had less losses, but still more losses last year than they did this year. So that's some positive momentum. So still a bit concerning if you look at the market, if you look at the competition, if you look at how Verizon is competing in the market, right, very aggressively with active promotions, very, very aggressive active promotions and acquisition costs, right? So a bit concerning there, but Verizon did, the third quarter did turn positive last year. So we'll see if they can maybe get a higher positive momentum in this quarter this year. So one thing that is a bit concerning on this chart is the slowdown on FWA. We haven't quite seen that, right? Verizon has been able to sustain and stay even on FWA, but now even that is under 300,000. So for those of you who remember, T-Mobile stayed at about a 500,000 number until they got to very close where they wanted to get to, right? The guidance. And then they raised price, and that lowered the growth. But even then, T-Mobile was still around 400,000, 380, like the high 300s. But Verizon is like dropping off, right? You can kind of see it even. If you look at the broadband net adds, even. And then the last quarter was 339,000, and now it's under 300,000, right? So hopefully that does not continue to lower. Hopefully it goes back up above the 300,000 mark. But just something, right, that we take a look at in the third quarter. Prepaid seems to be steady and healthy. They added 50,000 prepaid nets. One thing I will say, though, Verizon knocked it out the park. On the finances, my God. So if you look at the raise and beat for the year, they're raising free cash flow to 20.5 billion on the high end, up from 18.5. So the finances are in great shape. Even with the consumer losses, the finances are just great, right? So the EBITDA growth, they changed it from 1% to 3% from flat prior. And then the adjusted EBITDA growth, or that was the adjusted EPS growth prior. But the adjusted EBITDA growth also up, right? 2.5 to 3.5 versus 2.0 to 3.5. So they're financially very sound and strong as a company. One thing I wanted to take a look at to see if there was any churn on this one. So I don't see any churn numbers on this chart, on this metric, but we'll review the churn in the later video. But I just wanted to talk about this because it is also C-band and fiber build-outs tracking ahead of plan too. So that's something interesting to note as well, as people talk about C-band and the scale and everything else. So yes, I just wanted to cover this here. Looks like it's got to be considered a solid quarter, right? The finances are through the roof. So the stock's going to love it. The market's going to probably be up. I haven't checked yet. But yeah, stay tuned to the channel. Lots of content coming from the trip and just a lot of stuff I got to fill you guys in on. But solid quarter for Verizon. I mean, free cash flow is massively up. Everything has been adjusted across the board. So something is working, right? The bit of a concern is still the loss on consumer, and then the free cash flow. The FWA is down a little bit, right? So we don't like to see that much. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. See you in the next one. Peace.